Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And we are SP Film Viewers.
And in today's episode that Sophie hasn't seen before is the Goonies.
I find it funny. The name,
title.
Yeah, Goonies. What does that kind of, in your head, like, is it meaning geeky or like...
Yeah, you can call someone a goon. Yeah, like a endearing name, I guess. For
somebody that's not so cool.
Yeah, I guess. Bunch of misfits.
Yeah, so I straight away kind of got a Stranger Things feeling to this. And I know, obviously, Stranger Things is a lot more modern, but obviously I've not seen the Goonies before. So for me, it's like Stranger Things is somewhat similar because I've seen the Stranger Things before I've seen this.
Definitely inspired.
Because it's obviously the era is like, is it like an 80s kind of?
1985.
And obviously Stranger Things is more current, but they're trying to get that same 80s vibe.
Yeah.
And you've got 4 kids that are like about 10.
10, 11, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the Stranger thing. And when they were riding the bikes, that made me think of it as well. It did, even though obviously I'm a 90s baby, it made me want to kind of go back to a world where things were more simple.
You mean as a child or...?
Yeah. So kind of like, I know the 90s for me, when you look at it, is quite a throwback, and it is, things were more simplified. Life didn't seem as...
I think everything seems more simplified when you're a kid, but
I think just like technology hadn't gone as far as it does now, and design, everything wasn't so instant, I guess, and people valued...
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So it kind of that simplicity of going on your bike, exploring...
doing on adventures.
Yeah. Which I don't know if kids nowadays
no,
do.
They won't bother with. The adventures they do is online games, Modern Warfare and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's their adventure, instead of going outside and getting dirty, or God forbid that they get a bit of mud on them or something. Yeah. And I think that's what I did enjoy. It reminds me of, obviously, when I was little, I would play in the garden all day and not be bothered. So you've got this little boy called Mikey, and you've got his big brother. And it took a while for me to realise who Mikey is, the main character, isn't he? Yeah. Who he was. And he was like, do you recognise him, Sophie? And I'm like, should I? And he said he was Sam from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Which I love Sam.
That's the theme that runs through this. It's one of the things that you like, him as a character. I
just love him to bits. I really do. And I think he still has that lovable kind of character in this.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Yeah.
But on the subject of Lord of the Rings, we were rewatching that recently, which is also kind of sad because in a way it coincides with the fact that Ian Holm, who plays Bilbo Baggins in the films, has passed away recently, which is quite sad.
Obviously when they're kind of going onto the boat and such.
Yeah. Poignant in a way. But
yeah.
Anyway.
So, the Goonies. You've got obviously this house that's going to get...
That's the whole neighbourhood, in fact. So
bulldozed.
Yeah.
But obviously these kids are just worried about where Mikey lives. And it's going to be a golf course that's going to get built over it. I think you've got 2 lovable characters in this. I really, really loved Chunk. I don't know why, I really love a chubby character. I do. I don't know if that's because that I used to be a chubby kid, and he's a little bit of a chubby goody two-shoes.
Yeah, he's always thinking with his stomach, really.
Yeah, and he's got a really good sense of smell.
For food.
Yeah, like, he can smell pizza from a mile off, and ice cream that's in the freezer. I'm like, how can you smell ice cream that's in the freezer? I don't understand how you know that was in there, because it wouldn't smell. So, he is the little sweetie. And can I jump a little bit to a relationship that I really, really enjoy?
Yeah, you can do, yeah, and then we'll come back to it.
So, there's a character called Sloth, been apparently dropped as a baby, damaged him a little bit mentally, I think, and he's not...
He's kind of disfigured. And
yeah. But he's got a heart of gold, and the relationship between Chunk and Sloth in the end is just wonderful. It was like, I just sat there and I was like, oh, my face was like lit up. It was like, that was just like perfect for me. So I do really think they had some really good solid characters in this, and you felt like you were wanting them to kind of succeed on their mission, which was to obviously get some money to help kind of not have their parents sign for the property to be bulldozed down.
Yeah.
So Mikey decides that they're going to go on a adventure. So they end up in the attic. They've got all this like relics and such from like museums.
Yeah, that his dad's collected, and it's to do with the whole One-Eyed Willie.
Yeah.
Story of, the buried treasure with the pirates and all that.
They stumble across it, and then they're like, he really wants to go on this kind of adventure to be able to help. And I think that's a lovely little incentive of a child really wanting to help the parents out. Mm-hmm. Kind of trying to, shouldn't be his burden really, but he wants to take
I think that's what drives the story for most of these, I guess, Spielberg type. So you definitely get that tone with how the way the story's driven, and the mannerisms and music cues and all that.
The music's really good, actually. Yeah. It really is. I did write that down, that I really enjoyed the music, and it kind of did have that intense adventure kind of feel.
Yeah.
Even though it was somewhat kind of dumbed down a little bit with naivety of the children.
Yes, in a way, it's sort of group of kids in a situation of Indiana Jones kind of way, which Spielberg was working on these with George Lucas a couple of years before, so that would sort of explain why it's sort of very sort of similar vein.
I haven't actually seen Indiana Jones, have I?
No, so you might like it then if you...
I really loved this. Yeah. I did. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, there were certain things where you could see it was a bit dated, but it didn't spoil it. Like, obviously, like when rocks were coming down, you could see that it wasn't as smooth. And there was a part where bats came out, and you could see the strings.
Practically see the strings on.
Yeah. But obviously, stuff has progressed. But it didn't bother me that
sort of charm to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. It didn't ruin it at all.
There's the fact that back to Sloth briefly as a sort of like a character that isn't inherently doesn't look cool or like cute or anything, but he's like an icon of the film, and in a good way.
Oh, I love that.
Because when people think of the Goonies, I probably think that's probably one of the things they do, the "Hey you guys" kind of thing that he says.
Yeah.
And also the truffle shuffle.
Truffle shuffle.
That Chunk has to do at the gate to be let in. Lift your shirt up and...
Oh, bless him. And his little chubby rolls, and they're all jiggling, bless him.
This is like... I've not seen it in a good while, but I really thought there was more of a recurring thing with that. But there wasn't. It was only the other once that happens. It doesn't... But, sort of like almost like a catchphrase or a gimmick that you'd have, but you don't know, it only happens the once for whatever reason. But,
so you'd have thought it would be one that
I don't know, but
would occur more if it's been quite popular. I think the thing that with Chunk that occurs more is that he's so clumsy.
Yeah.
Like literally, you can pass him something and Mikey's like counting, going 1, 2, waiting until he's going to drop it.
But I noticed when we put the film on, it was on Now TV, and it was listed as saying some of the ideology or the themes in the film are a bit outdated and might offend some people, and they're thinking, what things were there, or before we even started, what I'm going to sit through this and go try and pick out what things were that were really obvious. I guess maybe the whole picking on Chunk a little bit because he's fat, maybe something that might be something, you're not allowed to be doing that anymore kind of thing, bullying him.
Oh, but that still goes on, doesn't it, sadly?
Yeah.
But I think I was wondering if it was more with Sloth.
Possibly. I don't know more if it's because, he's different.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, and obviously they locked him away, or is it the little Chinese?
Possibly, yeah, and not really fully understanding what he's meaning, what he's saying.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, maybe something.
But I thought that was quite humorous, and it did add a little bit of life.
So without that disclaimer being on the thing before on the synopsis bit, I wouldn't have thought anything of that really. But I'm sure nobody would have really. But the only thing I can think of that maybe obviously would be a bit of we can't really say that anymore is when Chunk says. He's obviously been telling stories, or it's quite a boy who cried wolf, and saying something about Michael Jackson did come into my house. I'm thinking,
that's not really a good thing to say, is it? Did he come into his house to use his bathroom or something like that?
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think, so there's a couple of things. I thought it would more be with Sloth. I felt that would have been, for me, that would have been my thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it were a case of obviously being different and being kind of locked up and kind of...
Yeah, tortured. Well, in a sense.
Yeah.
Just, you're
Not
a monster, really.
Yeah, not treated like a human.
Yeah.
So I kind of got that vibe as well of the kids getting the better upper hand of the robbers. So we haven't really spoken about...
Yeah, the whole thing that's going on there.
Yeah. So I don't actually know what the robbers are actually meant to be getting up to. I don't actually know what their side story is. For me, it's not made 100% apparent. Obviously, I know this one guy escapes from prison. But what they're doing in this old broken down restaurant, apart from hiding Sloth, I'm not 100% sure. There's like this dead body that they keep carrying around.
Yeah, they seem to have taken out somebody, which I feel like was the people who were dropping off the, like the legal stuff or whatever, give this to your dad or whatever.
Okay.
Maybe one of them, I feel like it was.
Right, that's fine then.
Could be wrong with that, but... And then, they discover that the mob, well, not the mob boss, but they were like Italian things, so they may as well be mob boss type people, but going out and then they stumble across it and then they end up killing them, I guess, because they've rumbled them, so I guess that's maybe why, but... And then obviously, I think the kids are there and they're trespassing a little bit, so like, you can't be telling anybody about this.
Yeah, because we're not...
Stuff. Yeah.
We're not doing something kosher here, so... Yeah. I'd say it's quite a light-hearted... I really enjoyed the story and it was quickly kind of moved along quite fast. Did the pace of it and it wasn't anything that I think could have been cut out or anything like that. You did have lovable side characters more than your main characters, I felt. And the people who were baddies.
The bad guys.
You had... kind of reminded me of like the burglars in Home Alone where you kind of... They don't actually catch up with what the kids are doing. The kids are smarter than the actual adults, which shouldn't really be the case, but it seems to always be...
Again, very similar with Home Alone and in the era of, the kids getting the upper hand of the...
Yes. So obviously they go on this hunt of finding the treasure, which they do succeed at doing, and they're quite intelligent and working out these clues, but obviously it depends on what kind of kids you had. If you had the cool kids going, they probably wouldn't have succeeded as much as like a little group of nerdy kids.
Yeah. So
there's it looks like there's certain puzzles and we're getting towards the end and there's a piano which needs to be
played in a certain order
to open the doors. And I think this is where there's two girls that join them in the end, isn't there? Because one of them fancies the older brother.
Yeah.
And initially I'm thinking, oh God, why are they tagging along? They're just going to be a bit of a hindrance. And I know that sounds horrible because I'm a woman and I'm just thinking, oh, she's just going to start screaming at everything that happens. But she actually comes into her own a little bit, I think, at the end. And they all kind of grow a bit of a bond. Poor Chunk gets left out on his own a little bit at this point. And
they kind of leave him in the freezer, don't they? After they've realised the bad guys are coming in, so let's hide under the floor.
I didn't think Chunk could get in there though, bless him. Maybe that's why they didn't try. I don't know if that was one of the reasons. So they do actually find the boat with all the treasure, but what I like about Mikey is he doesn't take
One-Eyed Willie's treasure.
Yeah, he leaves that, and he's quite smart and intelligent, and he's talking to One-Eyed Willie like it's like, thank you for letting me have this, and being really sweet about taking some of the treasure, and he's not being greedy and taking it all.
There's no way I could carry it all out.
No, that's true, especially because they had to swim. But then the baddies yet again appear out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, they're following them, aren't they? But it's just like, how did they get there so quickly? And it's quite annoying in a sense because the kids have done all the work. And it's like, and then they're going to just come along and take it. It's like, it's not really fair. But luckily, this is where you see Sloth come into his own and kind of go against his mum and his two brothers. So they obviously have to get out and they don't get much treasure at all. They don't get any, do they? Because...
No, there was on the bit when they're getting out, because obviously he's a bit like a gentle giant, isn't he? Where he's like, he comes into his own with strength when he needs to be, because he helps lift up a rock.
Yeah.
To let them all get out, because it's sort of some rocks are falling down in the cave. And I guess the other dodgy bit is obviously going on.
Yes.
And they're all going underneath his crotch area.
Yeah, that, especially with Chunk.
He's kind of like very, very close. He's like, oh no, come on, come with us.
Yeah, and it's a little bit too
close. Maybe that's another part.
But I love the fact that when they'd got out, Chunk was worried about Sloth, and eventually, obviously, you see Sloth and the baddies coming out with him. And I love how the kids react, and like, no, please, to the police, don't arrest him, he's good, no. Mm-hmm. And they all kind of jump around and make a fuss and say, please leave him alone. Yeah. And I think that's like one of the nice endings to it. It kind of shows it doesn't matter who you are or anything like that. If you do good for other people, they're going to give you it back. It's as simple as that. And obviously the baddies got taken away and put into prison, which was the right ending. It does have you go up a little bit of a roller coaster, because you think that still after all of this, they've not been successful, mm-hmm. and they can't have the house, and it's going to get bulldozed down because his dad's in the middle of signing it, isn't he? Until this lady, bless her, I think she was Spanish or something like that, wasn't she?
Yes. Slightly off topic there, the other kid, what was he called? Mouth? Was his nickname or something? And he was the one who was like, who could speak perfect Spanish. I didn't really believe that
he was a bit cocky, he was, I thought. I'm not...
pushing his hair back and everything, but I don't really believe that he knows fluent Spanish.
He was like really arrogant.
And stuff, but anyway, so yes, so she says, she finds these gems in this coat pocket or whatever, and then...
gives it to, obviously, the mum and dad, and then they can basically, that's like pay out for the house, and they get to stay. And I think that's kind of a nice ending, really. So the diamonds kind of save the house, and they don't have to move, and they can carry on with the life that they have. And it's not like they've got a luxurious life. It's like they're just wanting to be close by to their friends and family, really. Yeah,
we just think that they make a point of saying, it's like, oh, I'm rich from just having you and my boys, really, for the mother.
And I think that is a lovely thing to think of, and I think sometimes people don't value that as much as they should. No. I think maybe more now they're realising that, probably with everything that's been going on. Mm-hmm. So then the ending I thought was quite a poetic, somewhat, ending of where you see the boat...
Pirate ship
boat sail off into the distance. Yeah. And then it's somebody else's new adventure.
To find the money and then gain off the money from that. Yeah. Who knows?
So it's like a new ending kind of happening where somebody else can kind of reap the rewards. They didn't take...
Undeservedly.
They didn't take too much, though. That was the nice bit. They weren't greedy. They didn't... It wasn't like eyes bigger than belly with it. It was like just wanted a little bit to be able to save what they'd got.
Well, the bad guys took all the money off them, except for that bit they'd forgotten was in the pocket.
Yeah. So, I think that's pretty much all of it in a nutshell. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I didn't know what the Goonies was going to entail for me.
Are you kind of sad that you didn't see when you were younger?
I don't know if I'd appreciated it as much.
Well, I came into this quite late anyway. I didn't see it when I was really young, so there's no attachment as such for me there. But seeing it the second time round, it's still quite an enjoyable laugh.
Yeah, it's light-hearted, but it's interesting, and it keeps you kind of intrigued and engaged with it.
Storyline, yeah.
And it's kind of like a nice sense of humour one. It's one that kind of you escape for an hour and a half, I feel.
Yeah, going on 2 hours. Yeah, no, it's not heavy.
No.
In this time. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah, it is. And in the end, it's obviously, I couldn't complain about the ending. The ending was exactly what I'd have wanted. It, ended well. And everybody got like the happy ending, so to speak. And it was quite nice to see the boat drifting off. And that they actually believed, the kids obviously, that they'd seen the boat physically going past. Yeah. They can't really, it's like seeing Santa Claus, isn't it?
I guess.
Yeah, so I'd definitely watch it again. I think it'd be one that you could watch with children. I think they'd find it quite intriguing, being little, wanting to do their own little adventures. Mm-hmm. Even though if that was my 10-year-old, I would be absolutely bricking myself thinking he's out and about doing that. If I'm completely honest. I don't think it'd happen as much today, which is sad that we're not as relaxed to let them explore. But overall, I probably would score it quite highly.
What score would that be then?
I think I ended up having a smile on my face once it had ended. And I think that is a key thing. And there were things that were dated, but the relationships and such that you did have made the story, I felt. So I'd probably give it a high 9. What about you? You're going to sound really horrible now, aren't you?
So I don't know. I'm in the camp of either giving it... It sounds really harsh if I give it a 7. But I feel like it's a bit high to give it an 8.
Do you want to do a 7.5?
Yeah, I don't really like doing halves. So I feel like I maybe have to on this one. Because I guess like I said a moment ago, is not a great attachment to the film as I would maybe if I was younger and saw it a fair few times. That'd be quite endearing in the story and everything. Not to say there's nothing bad about the thing. It is enjoyable to watch and it's quite funny. For not seeing it for a good while, and picking up on certain things, especially like how some, like you do, you see actors who were like really young, and then you think, oh god, like that's so and so,
yeah,
and then kind of things. So there's that aspect that's quite enjoyable. The story, because when I was thinking of it, I was like, I can't even really remember what. I know they go and get the treasure and stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't remember chronologically how things progress and what's what and key scenes and stuff like that. So it was nice to experience that again.
Yeah.
And I guess there would be the fact that yes, it's good to rewatch again. It's not like I never want to see it again now, because there's.
I definitely would rewatch it again, and I think it probably, for me, I think as well it helped with the character. I think mine was the little chunk. And then Sloth. And I think that's what made it a 9 for me.
Okay.
I think, really. If you didn't have those two characters and it was just that storyline...
You wouldn't feel it wouldn't be as strong.
No.
Yeah, no, I think it was good that there was... that, especially when he got separated from the group. Because, again, if you had them all trying to be in, get through the cave, whatever, it would be a bit cluttered, so to speak. And you've got too many characters going on here to try and bounce off of.
I felt like Chunk became main character for me. Yeah. I really did, because he had his own little side story, and it kind of you flitting between the two. And I felt like Chunk had actually a harder time than all the rest of them, because at least they were all together. He was on his own and got captured at one point, didn't he, by the baddies? And that
was a good bit where, again, that helped with the fact that when he'd been separate from the group, because he's like. They're threatening him, like, tell us everything you know, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you. And one time in school I did the thing, and then cuts away from him, cuts to the other guys, they're doing something, and then he cuts back to him, and he's still going. And then in 8th grade,
I think if I had a little boy like him, I'd be so happy. It's just because he's so lovable and sweet.
So I'm not ripping on it or anything badly, but I feel like it's probably just. It's good enough to enjoy for what it is. It's nothing groundbreaking in the sense of I take any big moral lessons or anything away from it. But other than your family's important. That's the main focus. But I mean, there's no crazy camera angles or thing. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
For that thing, I feel like I can't really justify it being quite a high score.
Now you go more on technical kind of aspects where give me a good character relationship and I am sold. Mm-hmm. I don't even care the fact that you can see the strings from the bats. It didn't bother me. It's like, well, yeah, fair enough. You're in the 80s. You didn't have as much equipment to make it more streamlined. And I think it kind of added a bit of nostalgia, even though it wasn't from that era. Mm-hmm. It felt like nostalgic to me.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, we both have our opinions. Yeah. But when you said the Goonies, I was like, what the heck is he making me watch? Because it's like I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, as a title, I guess you don't really know what to expect. But...
No. And then actually Chunk was on the
screen,
yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually I'd thought Mikey was the main character, but actually I think Chunk is a main, and bless him.
Yeah, so the two things you'd take away from knowing what the Goonies is Chunk and Sloth, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say they're your two main ones, even though they're not the side characters, but they are the nicest characters and most lovable. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, good.
So thank you so much for listening to our thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed what we had to say. And don't think Paul's so horrible for scoring the Goonies really
don't
low.
take it to heart. I know this is a very fond film for some people, but it's not quite too nostalgic for me. But not to say it's not a bad film. So you can find us on our episodes on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, wherever else you might get your podcasts from. And of course, we're on social media on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook under the handle SP Film Viewers.
So hopefully Paul will pick a really good film again, like The Goonies, for me next week, that I can actually really enjoy. Obviously we do it where it is kind of randomised.
Maybe next time we'll do something where it's something like your pick.
I like that. I like it when it's my pick. I love it.
Not making any promises, but we'll see.
I love it when you kind of have to watch and review, because then it's like I get to be sat in your shoes. Well, thank you again, everyone.
Yes, thank you once again, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time. Take care.
Bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.